Welcome, everyone, to Mind and Life Changes, where we aim to help you use the power of your own mind to transform your life. Today's segment is called Whispers from the Soul. Whispers from the Soul is about learning to listen to those inner promptings, that GPS that exists inside of each of us. And today's guest to discuss her own personal journey of discovering the whispers of her soul is Laurie Hammond. Laurie Hammond is a hypnotic coach who works with people all over the world using Zoom. One of the things that people love most about working with Laurie is how they experience rapid, lasting, and identity level transformation in a group setting. Many people join Laurie from the comfort of their own homes for a group hypnosis session called Trancy Tuesdays. That's definitely a catchy name, Trancy Tuesdays, where they are guided through new protocols each week to delve deeper and deeper breakthroughs for each person and their own unique difficulties. Laurie's work has been impacted by the book Power of Eight, which shows science-based evidence that people receive profound life-changing breakthroughs in a group setting, even when the group is physically scattered around the world, as they do in her Trancy Tuesdays. You'll be able to get links to contact her directly below this podcast. So I'm going to now turn it over to Laurie. Laurie, tell us a little bit about your journey to discover the whispers from your soul.
Zoilita, thank you for having me here. I am so honored to be here with you, and I'm so honored to be here with your audience. When I've really had an intensified journey with the soul in recent weeks. So this is a really beautiful conversation, a really beautiful topic to be discussing right now. And my path, I don't know how far back to go. We can dive as deeply as you'd like. So I'll kind of skim the surface and let me know if you want to go deeper anywhere. When I made the decision to become a hypnotist, I'll back up a little bit. When I made the decision to divorce my husband of 15 years, it was a really scary thing for me. And I had been taught that divorce was evil and wrong and that I would go straight to hell. So it's a very scary decision. And I moved into a place where I would rather be living in a cardboard box than remain in that marriage. And it was very I've already said it was very scary for me to leave, and I did it. And that showed me in hindsight, I didn't realize the lesson that it was showing me at the time, which is sometimes our unconscious mind, our body, there's a part of us that tries to keep us in our comfort zone, even if our comfort zone is absolutely miserable. It was familiar. That marriage was familiar. I knew how to exist inside that marriage, and I hated it, but it was familiar. And so my unconscious mind did everything it could to keep me from leaving. And when I finally left, I started realizing all kinds of things about myself. I started making eye contact with people for the first time, probably in my life. You know, I had always kind of looked down and had a real shame-based mentality. And I started realizing I have value in the world, I have merit in the world. And it made me a better mom. It made me a better friend. It helped me very slowly but surely, because I think it's been about 18 years now since my divorce, very slowly start to love myself and be kind to myself and learn that that I was worthy of receiving that love. So I had never worked before. I had been a stay-home mom. I had homeschooled my kids, and I started venturing into the professional arena. And I decided to become a hairstylist. It's what I had always wanted to do since I was a child. It was the one career I had dreamed of having. And I was scared to do it, but I did it anyway. And I loved being a hairstylist. I loved, like, I worked at a Aveda salon. And so we started each service with a scalp massage. And I loved connecting with my clients and just having those heart to heart conversations. And the one thing I didn't love is that I wanted to travel. I had never traveled in my life and I desperately wanted to travel. So I started asking myself, how can I make an excellent living, but stop trading time for money and stop having to be location dependent in order to make money? And it was just kind of a question that I put out into the universe. And I realized now I was tuning my reticular activating system to look for solutions. And about the same time, I started learning hypnosis. I started listening to a podcast about hypnosis. I was still freaked out about hypnosis. I thought it was mind control. I thought it was of the devil, all the things that people are taught to believe about hypnosis. But I was intrigued by this podcast. It was a podcast with Mike Mandel and Chris Thompson, who later became my teachers. And I was listening to them talk about the life-changing things that hypnosis can do. And I thought, no, there's no way it works this well. They're talking about fixing things that I have been struggling with my entire life. It just can't possibly work this well. And I got to a place where I really trusted these men and I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. And I started studying hypnosis. And I realized that the answer to my question, how can I make an excellent living and stop trading time for money and not have to be location independent, would be to use this beautiful gift and do it in a group context. And then I discovered this thing called Zoom. This is a couple years pre-pandemic. Nobody had ever heard of Zoom before, but I researched and I found that there was this thing called Zoom that would let you connect with people from anywhere in the world. And at the time, Zoilita, I was thinking, okay, I can be anywhere in the world and meet with people wherever they are. But what is so amazing is I didn't know the pandemic was going to happen and I haven't been traveling as much as I thought I would, but I have people all around the world that join and meet in these sessions. And when I read the book that you mentioned in my bio, The Power of Eight, it was a game changer for me because I had been doing group sessions. I did an 8-week test, like a dry run, to see if people actually got transformation. And the transformation people received in that 8 weeks was phenomenal. So I knew up here in my head that it would work, but I didn't really know. I wasn't positive that I was doing people a service. And so when I read the book, The Power of Eight, I realized that there's science behind. They have tested and studied and looked at the miracles that happen in a group context. And even when people meet from all over the world, or even when they're not, don't have Zoom on, but they just all lean in at the same time, with the same intention, miracles happen. And after I read that book, I turned off my one-on-one sessions and said, I'm done. I'm not doing them anymore. I still do sometimes do them for fun and for connection. But what I have experienced is that I can have a group call with 50 people. I'm doing this because it's like I'll have them scattered all around my screen. So for those of you who might just be listening, I'm moving my hands around to indicate all the people on the screen. They can all be there from different parts of the world, different times of day, with different problems, different things that are bothering them, and need a different outcome. And when I guide them through a process that lets them set an intention of, really pinpoint where they are and where they want to be, miracles happen. And it's so beautiful because everyone in that call is bringing the energy of expectation and bringing the energy of transformation. And they can send out positivity to everybody there on the call, even if they can't feel it for themselves. And it's just a beautiful environment. So for me, the whispers of my soul, I actually was just having this conversation with a fellow hypnotist before we started, is I have noticed that when I follow the part of me that thinks, what if I tried this? Like, what if group hypnosis could work? What if I could do hypnosis location independently? What if I didn't have to be in the room with someone, which was a preposterous idea, 10 years ago. When I start thinking, what if I did this? And then I just start to act on that what if idea, amazing things happen. And all of my ideas that have turned out to be the most beneficial for me, the most beneficial for the people who pay attention to me, and the most beneficial for my checking account have been these what if ideas. And the ideas where I've sat down and plotted and schemed and tried to think of a good idea and just like used my conscious mind to make it work are the ideas where things have fallen flat and where it has felt like effort and work the whole time instead of feeling like play. So I think the biggest aha moment that I would love to impart to the listener is that when you let yourself move into a place of playfulness and what ifness, that's where the magic happens.
So I would identify that as tuning into the intuition as opposed to the cognitive mind,
Ooh,
because
yeah.
cognitive mind can only come up with ideas based on information data from the past. The intuitive
Mm.
mind has that ability to play in the world of possibility.
I love that. That really resonates. I feel like there are so many different ways to approach it and to look at it. And what you're saying really resonates with me. Thank you.
So, could you give an example of some changes that you've seen in members of your group?
Okay, so as I mentioned a moment ago, I just finished a conversation with a woman who lives in the UK. I've never met her in person, but she and I have spoken back and forth. We do voice messages back and forth to one another often enough that I feel like I know her. And she just sent me a message and she sent me a picture. I think she would be happy for me to share this because I'm going to tell you her name in a moment, but she sent me a picture of a book that she has just written and was telling me that she said, "You're the first person I'm showing this book because your processes and the things that you have shown me have made such a difference and such an impact." And she said, I never thought of myself as an author, and I never thought of myself as someone who would do something like this, but this just flowed and it was fun. And it was came from a playful place. And I said to her that this is such a profound truth because when we operate from a place of playfulness and a place of joy, amazing things happen. And so she talked to me about going through and writing the book, titling the book and saying, well, what if I call it this? And just being kind of playful as she approached the title and the writing of the various chapters and the editing and the re-editing of the book and then the formatting and putting it all together. She showed me the book and it's just beautiful. It just seeing it there in her hand is such a cool thing. Is it okay if I say her name and her book title?
Well, you could, why don't, yes, you can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
You can
Sorry,
tell
I
her
should have
to
asked first.
contact me. You can tell her to contact me about the author hour. We do an author hour
Oh,
segment.
okay, I will tell her. Her name is Vicky Smith and it's Vicki, and the book is Love Yourself Loudly. So it's brand new, hot off the press, but I bet you could find it with a web search or an Amazon. I'm assuming it's on Amazon. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, very good. Very
Yeah.
good. So, real results of people.
Yes, and that's what's so meaningful to me. I know I have I made a firm decision early in my business to be as visible as possible. That was very scary for me, very outside of my comfort zone as an introvert who tended to be invisible on social media. And I made that decision because about a year into my hypnosis career, I wasn't making any money. I wasn't reaching any people. Nobody knew I existed. And I realized I either need to be visible and let people know I'm here, or I need to go back to being a hairstylist, or I need to become homeless. Those were my only choices from my perspective. And so I started becoming very visible. And so I know I'd like to believe that a lot of people come in contact with my work and I never hear their story. But when they send me a message, either through Facebook Messenger or through email, and tell me, guess what happened? And this is because I heard you say this thing the other day. It means more to me than just about anything in the world. And it lights a fire under me to keep going because it's not all roses. Sometimes it's hard work. And
Mhm.
it, it's it's very invigorating for me seeing the difference that hypnosis has made in the world.
Oh, definitely. I feel like it's the most underrated skill that human beings have, that ability to actually manage the subconscious mind through hypnotic states. And I feel that moving like you and I are doing into hypnotic coaching allows people to then begin to see hypnosis in a new kind of light.
I agree. Yes.
For our audience, that was my cat that just walked across the
I was
screen.
going to say, I didn't see anything.
So where do you see yourself moving towards?
I, if you would have asked me this a few weeks ago, I might have had a multiple number of ideas. I think that's one of the ways that our conscious mind tries to hold us back, or that our unconscious mind tries to hold us back from forward momentum, is by making us have so many ideas that we don't know which to choose. And when I look at everything that I have done in my business, everything that I have created in my business, the thing that I enjoy the most, the thing that lights me up the most, is my group hypnosis sessions that I do every week in a group called Trancy Tuesdays. And it's, when I first started it, it kind of felt like I felt nervous. I felt like, what am I going to talk about this week? I was afraid I would drop the ball, just all these fears that a person has at the start. And as I have continued to show up week after week, month after month, and year after year, I think it's been about 5 years now that I've been doing this. It's the highlight of my week. And it's so beautiful for me. I have deep connections with people all around the world, most of whom I have never met in real life. And that's where I get the most stories, the most people saying, "Oh, this session that you just did changed my life. This session helped me in something that I'm going through in
Mhm.
this moment." So when I look forward and look at where I'd like to be as I move forward in my career, I would like to really just go all in on building up my Trancy Tuesdays family, bringing more and more people into the family, and having more and more people being impacted. And I believe that as that group grows, its impact will grow, because that the intention and the energy from people, so more and more people around the world, will just be a profound, beautiful thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So is this group open to people that are not hypnosis practitioners or just
Yes.
hypnosis practitioners?
That is a great question. So when I started the group, I started it for what I call the muggles, people, the non hypnotists, the non hypnosis practitioners, non hypnotic coaches, um, just for anyone, especially for people who haven't been exposed to hypnosis and wanted to transform their life. And what happened is, because when I decided to be visible, the people that I was visible in front of were other hypnotists. That ended up being everyone who joined. And I was really intimidated at first, because I was a brand new hypnotist. And I thought, oh, a lot of these people know more than I do, but they love it. They love being on the receiving end of hypnosis
Hmm,
and getting to experience it instead of always being the one applying it
of
for
course.
someone else. So it is very much my intent, and my goal is still to create the sessions in a way that if a person is familiar with hypnosis, they'll benefit. And if a person has never been exposed to hypnosis before and is maybe even a little bit nervous about it, that they'll benefit just as much, and that they'll have just as profound of life changes.
Well, very good. Hopefully, some of our audience will contact you with the information that we'll have to get in touch with you.
I would love that.
Yeah. Do you have a process that you would like to take our audience through?
I do. Uh, my favorite process is one that I taught the first year that I taught at HypnoThoughts, which is the largest hypnosis conference in the world. I spent months developing this process, and now I think I can teach it to you in just a couple minutes, 5 minutes tops. And it's the most powerful, in my experience, in my opinion, the most powerful self hypnosis process in the world. And anyone can do it. You do not need to have any experience. You do not need to go into a trance. You can do it anytime, anywhere, in just a few seconds. And it's
Is this
called
something that our audience should not be doing if they're driving a car or operating machinery?
Zoilita. I want to leave that up to you, because in my opinion, they can. I do it in my car all the time.
Okay.
So I think it's okay. But if you
So
let's
if you're going to keep your eyes open, then that's fine. If you're going to close your eyes, Make sure you're not driving a car or operating machinery.
I think that's great advice. I think that's great advice. And I designed this process to be done with eyes open, to be done in the middle of the grocery store, to be done,
Okay?
here where I'm sitting in my office. You can close your eyes for it. And I agree with Zoilita. Don't do that if you're driving. All right. So it's called the 3 Bs. And I put this together after studying so many different hypnotists, so many different neuroscientists, understanding how a person changes their state. So for anyone who's not familiar with what that word means in the context of transformation, a state, we can think of a state as how we're showing up in the world. So if someone is playing with their dog on the floor, they're playing with their puppy and they're being silly and maybe they're growling, they're in a playful state. And if a person is making a business call and they're trying to act really professional and be really well spoken, and maybe they're feeling a little bit nervous, they're in that nervous professional state. I've heard people say, "Oh, I just want to be my authentic self." And my issue with that is that we each have this is a neuroscience fact. These are like wired in neural pathways, over 100 different states that we can access depending on where we are, what mood we're in. We have all these different ways that we can show up in the world. Each one is authentically us. And you can think of these different states metaphorically like kids in a classroom. I learned this metaphor from my teacher, Mike Mandel. So you can imagine that there's 150 kids in this classroom. It's a great big classroom, and some are over playing with blocks and being silly, and some are climbing on the desks and pretending to be a superhero. Some are pouting in the corner. Some are hiding under the desk because they're scared. There's just all these different kids, but there's one rule to this classroom, and that is that only one kid can stand in the front of the classroom at a time. And whichever kid is standing up front is the one who's running the show. So if happy kid is standing up front, sad kid is sitting down. Have you ever noticed that you can't be simultaneously happy and sad at the same time? You can go back and forth, but this is another neuroscience principle. Two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So when a person has happy kid in the front of the classroom, sad kid is sitting down. And it's so much easier to allow sad kid to go sit down and let all the other kids love on him or her than it is to try to, when we try to drag sad kid back to the desk and we say, get out of here, get out of here. When we resist something that we don't want to experience, it doesn't work very well. What we resist persists and it actually stays stuck even more. But when we ask ourselves, how do I want to feel? And start to bring that kid to the front of the classroom, the other kid just automatically goes and sits down. So if to your audience, to the listener, if I could show you a simple way to change the kid in the front of the classroom in under 5 seconds, would you be interested? That works every time. It's
That was
through,
great.
all right. It's through the 3 Bs. So I recommend doing them in this order. If you've ever used affirmations and found that they didn't work, it's often because when we're just saying something different with our mind or our mouth, but we aren't feeling it with our body, it doesn't necessarily resonate. Sometimes it kind of falls flat and doesn't light us up the way we would like it to light us up. So the 3 Bs: body language, breathing, belief. That belief, it's just a B word that means thoughts or what you're saying to yourself. So first, change your breathing. So this is where you can follow along with me. Only do what is appropriate and safe. If you are driving and operating heavy machinery, you can do this later, or you can just do the parts that let you drive safely. And that is just to imagine that there's a string pulling you up from the top of the head. And that string is allowing the rest of your body to align. It allows your body to be upright, your spine to align, which allows you to take a deep, invigorating breath all the way down to the low belly and let it out with a long, slow exhale. And just to enhance that body language a little more, you can lift your chin slightly. You can look up. These both send signals of optimism to the body and the brain, to the spirit. And then I double dare you, even if it feels uncomfortable and you're not used to it, to put a big cheesy grin on your face. Smile so big that your teeth show and the corners of your eyes crinkle up. You guys, my face hurt when I started shifting my 3Bs because I was so used to having a sad facial expression that when I started smiling, my face literally would hurt for weeks. And now it feels natural. And then so here you are, your posture is upright. You have a big cheesy smile on your face. And now if you're willing, I invite you to hold your arms out to the sides as if you're embracing life, as if you're saying yes to life. So that's the body language. And next is the breathing. Once more, take a deep, invigorating breath in from the nose all the way down to the low belly. And let it out with a long, slow exhale. And one more deep, invigorating breath. Long, slow exhale. And now just think to yourself, I am here. I am here. And now you can go ahead and bring your hands back down. My Zoom screen put my hand up because it saw me putting my hand up. I just did it again. Okay, I think we're okay. It's such a simple, what I've noticed for myself, the subconscious mind, some call it subconscious, some call it unconscious. I use those two interchangeably. Almost has a childlike way of articulating things. So when we say some long, flowery, really fancy, convoluted affirmation, it's not going to resonate as much as something really simple like, I can do this. I am here. So the more simple, it could be as simple as yes. Like just close your eye, or don't close your eyes if you're driving, but just close your eyes and say yes. And notice how that feels in the body. So that's the world's fastest hypnosis protocol. When you notice yourself feeling yucky, feeling sad, feeling insecure, ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And then change your 3Bs to match that feeling.
So would you repeat those 3Bs again?
Yes. So the 3Bs are body language, and I do recommend doing them in this order. Shift your body language, shift your breathing, and then shift your belief, which is just what you're saying to yourself. And body language doesn't have to be super fancy like we did on the call. It can be as simple as just becoming a little bit more upright, as just, the body language of depression or sadness is looking down. It's a really shallow breath where there's more of an emphasis on the exhale than the inhale. The body language of anxiety tends to be tense shoulders, kind of a jittery feeling. Usually there's more of an emphasis on the inhale than the exhale. So just simply, if a person is struggling with anxiety, just relaxing the shoulders and letting the breath out, and then saying, I am okay in this moment.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because when a person is struggling with sadness or depression, they're usually in the past. They're usually literally hypnotizing themselves to think about the past so vividly that it's bothering them right now. And when a person struggles with anxiety, they're usually in the future, and they're hypnotizing themselves to think about the future in such a scary, what ify way that their body is responding as if it's happening. So when we simply get back to right now through the 3Bs, everything shifts.
Yes. Yes. The place of power is always the present moment.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So take these techniques into your life. Remember always that you have the ability to manage your life through the power of your mind. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.